ritual in the clearing, the legend of the whispering forest drew me in, like it has for countless others before me. I arrived alone at dusk, determined to spend the night, to feel the pulse of the forest in the dead of night. My tent was set, a small campfire flickering against the encroaching darkness. As night thickened, the sounds of the forest grew quiet, and an unnatural silence pressed down round me. It was as if the trees were holding their breath, waiting. As the silence took hold, I began to notice whispers, faint and distant, but unmistakably real. They seemed to drift from the trees themselves, carried by the wind in strange, fragmented phrases that slipped through my mind, leaving a chill in their wake. They were inviting me deeper, urging me to follow the narrow, twisting path that led into the heart of the forest. I should have ignored them, but something in that darkness pulled me forward, a strange magnetism I couldn't resist. The path led me to a clearing bathed in moonlight, where the earth was charred, blackened in a wide circle. Symbols were carved into the surrounding trees, jagged, unfamiliar markings that seemed to pulse with an ancient energy, as if they were alive. At the center of the clearing, I saw it a tall, ominous pyre smoldering with low, blue flames. Shadowy figures encircled it, their shapes just barely visible, like flickers of black smoke against the dark. Then, I heard chanting, low and rhythmic, rising and falling with the crackling flames. It was a language I didn't understand, something guttural and primal, and the voices seemed to vibrate through my bones, as if reaching for the deepest parts of me. I was rooted to the spot, unable to move, transfixed by the dark ritual unfolding before me. The figures around the pyre moved with a slow, unnatural fluidity, their shapes bending and twisting as if they were less than human. One of them lifted a hand, its fingers impossibly long, and then, gesturing to the pyre, I felt a wave of terror as the flames shifted, revealing something within a shape, a figure of blackened bone and charred flesh, its hollow eyes burning with a light that wasn't fire. As I watched, it turned its head toward me, and I felt a pull, a dark, insidious compulsion drawing me closer to the flames. With every ounce of strength, I broke free of its gaze and stumbled back, crashing through the underbrush, running blindly in the direction of my camp. The whispers grew louder, furious, like angry winds tearing at my mind, urging me to return, to submit. Somehow, I found my way back to my tent, but as I sank to the ground, I knew I wasn't alone. Something had followed me from that clearing, a shadow that clung to me, lurking just beyond the firelight. The ghost of the girlie wasn't the only one who felt the presence. Months later, another visitor to the forest, a woman named Julia, reported seeing a figure that's become infamous among those who ventured into the whispering forest. As she walked through the trees at twilight, she glimpsed a young girl, pale and fragile, her dress torn and stained with earth, her hair draped in a tangled mess around her shoulders. The girl's eyes were dark, empty, like to voids that swallowed the light. The girl whispered as Julia approached, her voice soft and eerie, repeating strange phrases that sounded like an ancient chant. Her gaze was fixed on Julia, and though she couldn't understand the words, Julia felt something cold, something ancient reaching into her mind, pulling her closer, drawing her into the girl's empty stare. Julia backed away, feeling an overwhelming sadness mixed with fear. When she blinked, the girl was gone, but the forest around her had shifted, as if it were trying to seal her in, to hold her in that haunted silence. The possession forest's reputation drew many, investigators who aimed to capture evidence of the supernatural. Armed with cameras and recording devices, they entered the forest one cold November night. For hours, they encountered nothing, but as they reached the heart of the woods, they noticed strange markings on the ground, like claw marks trailing through the dirt and leaves. Then, one of the investigators began to act strangely, muttering to himself and wandering away from the group. His voice was strained, his words incoherent, yet he was smiling something twisted, unnatural about it. The others watched, horrified, as he fell to his knees, eyes rolling back as he began to convulse. Shadows seemed to close in around him, swirling in the air, coalescing until they formed the vague outline of a figure, a shape darker than the night, almost indistinguishable, yet undeniably there. The investigators heard a whisper, clear and cold, and then the man fell silent, his body limp. They shook him awake, but he was changed, his eyes hollow, his movements sluggish, as though something had drained him, left him empty. When they finally left the forest, he had no memory of what had happened, but he would never return, haunted by a darkness that seemed to follow him. The solo camper's most disturbing tale is that of a solo camper who came seeking peace in the forest, only to find a darkness that nearly consumed him. Sitting alone by his campfire, he became aware of a presence watching him from beyond the flames. A tall figure with glowing, emerald-like eyes stepped from the shadows, silent and imposing. It circled the camp, its eyes fixed on him, unblinking, waiting. As he watched, frozen in terror, the figure began to whisper in a low, gravelly voice, speaking in a language that seemed ancient and wrong, words that clawed at his mind, tearing at the edges of his sanity. The camper felt his thoughts grow distorted, his perception bending as he was pulled toward the figure, his vision narrowing into a tunnel of darkness. It was as if the very fabric of reality was slipping away, leaving only the darkness and the whispers. He awoke at dawn, slumped by his extinguished fire, alone. But something in him had changed. Friends say he became a different person after that night, his eyes empty, haunted. No one knows what the figure whispered to him, but those who've encountered him since say he speaks in fragments, repeating phrases that make no sense, words that sound like echoes from some other world. The Whispering Forest is a place where the boundary between reality and nightmare wears thin, where shadows are not merely shadows, and where even the strongest minds are vulnerable to the ancient whispers of something darker. Those who enter may never truly leave, for the forest takes a part of them with it, leaving behind an emptiness, a whisper in the back of their minds, calling them back into the heart of the darkness. It's a place where the shadows remember, where the trees watch, and where something waits in silence, biding its time until the next soul ventures to close.